Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the BroncCast, the official Cal Poly Pomona Athletics podcast. I am your host, Tyler Lobe, the Assistant Athletics Director for Communications at CPP. This week's podcast is a special one, as we welcome the 3 individuals that make things run at the California Collegiate Athletic Association, or more widely known as the CCAA. I sit down with Commissioner Mitch Cox, Associate Commissioner for Compliance and Internal Operations, Rivera, and the Director of Communications, Jessica Lantz, to discuss all things CCAA. We chat about what the current status is regards to return to play in the spring, how the conference office operates with just 3 full-time staff members. It is Officials Appreciation Week, and we give appreciation where appreciation is due. Touch on the name, image, and likeness proposal from the NCAA, the upcoming changes to the CCAA Network, why to choose Division II over Division I or Division III, and we wrap it up with a promo of Tuesday night's Bachelorette premiere on ABC. Here it is, episode 7 of the BroncCast. A very special edition of the BroncCast this week welcomes 3 individuals that make the CCAA go. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, beginning with Mitch.
Hi, I'm Mitch Cox. I'm the Commissioner of the CCAA. I have been in this position officially since summer of 2018, took over as interim in the winter of 2017. Before that, I was Associate Athletic Director at Chico State for about 16 years, and before that, I was Assistant AD over at Sonoma State for almost a dozen years. So I've been in this league for a long, long time.
Great, and Carol. That's good.
Okay, cool.
My name is Carol Rivera. I'm the Associate Commissioner for Compliance and Internal Operations. I've been here for 13 years. My hometown is Fairfield, California. Before the CCAA, I was at UC Irvine as a compliance coordinator. Prior to that, I was at the West Coast Conference for about a year as a paid intern. And then prior to that, I was at University of Cincinnati while I was getting my master's degree at Xavier University. And I ended up in administration. I was originally on the athletic trainer track, but and I was also doing a dual career in firefighting, and I got hit by a big boulder. So I was thinking about going into sports administration, and because it did some damage to my hand, it kind of made my decision for me. So that's how I ended up in athletic administration.
All right, and Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Lantz. I am originally born in Colorado Springs. My dad's in the Army, and raised in Oklahoma City. Big Cowboys fan, go Pokes. That's my alma mater, and I have my master's degree in whatever it's called, college athletics, actually, from the University of San Francisco. That's one of my career stops. I've been on campuses at USF, at Oklahoma State, Oklahoma City University, and the NAIA, and now here at the conference office for the last 4 years.
Great. Well, glad to have the 3 of you on the broadcast. It's the special edition, obviously, and normally we do some individuals from Cal Poly Pomona, but I wanted to feature the conference office and because a lot of times people just know that the CCAA is there. They don't understand that there's 3 people there. They may even think there's 20 people there, but we'll get into that a little bit later. First question right off the bat, and Mitch, I know you know this is coming. $1 million question. Everyone in the league is asking, everyone's wondering. We may or may not know the answer, but what is the status of return to play for this academic year right at this moment as we record this on Tuesday, October 13th?
This is the $1 million question?
$1 million, maybe I'll add $1 in there as well.
So am I getting $1 million if I answer this question?
I'll give you $1,002.
Okay, well, can't turn down that deal. The answer, let's see. The answer is we are desperately trying to get everybody back out there in the spring. We're working with Pac West Conference. We're trying to come up with all sorts of different options to make it possible for our student athletes to get out and have some sort of athletic experience in the spring. It is a challenge, and everybody knows it's a challenge. I don't think that's a secret. We have a lot of hurdles to get over, but best I can tell you is that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to come up with as many options as possible. We've been doing that for months, ever since word came down, back in May, and it's an ever-changing daily landscape that we're dealing with. And so really that's the best I can tell you. I wish I could give you a great answer, but you'll probably not give me the $1 million now after that answer. But the bottom line is we're just doing what we can do and moving forward until we're told not to.
Now, I assume there are meetings coming up, this month. The original timeline that was that the official announcement from the CCAA a couple months ago was that we would know something in October. Is that still possible, to whether or not we know about the spring sometime this month, or is it still kind of just wait and see?
I would say that sometime in late October, early November is when you'll probably finally get some sort of definitive type of answer. I mean, I think the chancellor's office coming out and saying that classes in the spring would be virtual or mostly virtual, that came out after we had thrown out this timeline. And certainly the athletic directors and the presidents and everybody are doing what we can. But again, we're also dealing with guidelines and restrictions put on by the state, by local health agencies, the NCAA. There's just a lot of moving parts in this.
Now, over the last several months, obviously since this pandemic has started, the CCAA office has had to put out some pretty disappointing news, such as canceling, postponing seasons. We're in the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic, hopefully once in a lifetime. So many of these decisions go way, way beyond sports. With those announcements coming out of your office, how much of those decisions are made directly by you, or are they done in careful collaboration with you and various groups of people around the state?
How many of those decisions are made by me?
Yes.
0.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. I mean, we have to go back to March when everything got shut down by the NCAA. Then you go to May when the chancellor's office announced that classes in the fall would be virtual, that the CCAA had suspended its activities for the fall semester, and the presidents make those decisions. All I do is try and serve our member schools, serve the presidents, but the ultimate decisions ride with the presidents and our chancellor's office, kind of a combination play to those two. But we're here just to enact and serve and do the best we can to help out. But that's, we're one level, they're another level.
Absolutely. Sure. All right. Well,
we serve as a facilitator of the communication and the bearer of the news versus real decision making from our office.
The bad bearer of news. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes good news.
Good news. So it's not always bad.
That's true.
I mean, the bottom line, Tyler, and I think we need to make this point, is that in May, when the chancellor's office announced that we would be, having virtual classes in the fall for all the CSU, and that the CCAA was suspending its athletic competition. I mean, I got calls from all sorts of commissioners and emails saying, "Oh man, sorry about this. Really feel bad for you guys." And I said, "You're going to be there in a couple of months. We're just getting an early start on it." And the health and safety of our student athletes is our top priority. And by making that decision early, yeah, it was tough. We took a few slings and arrows, but as you can see, we were the leader as opposed to the follower. Because every other conference in Division II has followed our lead at this point.
Makes sense. Complete sense. I mean, like I said, this is a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how this is going to shake out. No one knows how tomorrow is going to be. This could all disappear tomorrow. Who knows? It could get worse tomorrow. just go get your flu shots. That's all I can say.
Wear a mask.
And wear a mask. Yes. All right. Changing gears. Now that we got the $1,000,001 question out of the way, I'll maybe throw $2 your way, but that's about all I'm going to give you on that one.
Carol will make me report that. So she does in science biz.
Perfect segue, because I'm going right to Carol. Carol, in your position, so you are pretty much kind of the overseer of compliance throughout the conference. You essentially provide support and guidance for compliance officers at each of the CCAA schools, and helping them understand and interpret a whole bunch of rules and guidelines that come down from the NCAA committees. The NCAA committees are made up of university presidents, ADs, compliance officers, financial aid directors, academic advisors, people all around athletic departments in the nation, people even outside athletic departments. Like I mentioned, the financial aid directors. They're the ones who make the decisions on specific rules and guidelines, and the NCAA then just interprets the rules. So when rules related to topics like countable athletic related activities, which people know as CARA, recruiting, amateurism, eligibility, and other similar things, what's the process of you handling those types of things on your end? Or do you just kind of provide guidance to all the member school compliance officers?
I do primarily provide guidance. So if institutions are stuck on a question, sometimes it's not clear in the manual, and it's a matter of interpretation. And sometimes people interpret it one way and other people interpret it a different way. And so I'm here to kind of help try to clarify some of those questions that come through. And sometimes it will involve me doing further research, going to the NCAA to clarify, or depending on the situation, sometimes the institutions go directly if there's a lot of maybe moving parts that the NCAA is going to come back and ask a bunch of questions about. So I work with them on that, as well as, if anybody has an issue or a violation or something that they need to fix or clean up, I'm here to provide them guidance on that, provide them guidance on sanctions that would be acceptable by the NCAA. We have some guidelines for some bylaws, not all of them, but we can do a search across the country for other institutions that have had similar violations, that have a similar fact pattern, and implement something very similar to those cases so that they won't have any additional sanctions imposed on them. So I'm here to kind of just help them through that process. And in a sense, it's almost like being a consultant to our institutions.
Now, I've seen the manual. It is it's a very large several documents put together in one huge binder of paper, that's for sure. So it can't be easy to figure out what everything means. And it also, obviously there's no page or pages that involve what is going on right now with COVID and how everybody's seasons are now affected and eligibility. So how are you walking through all of that?
It's a challenge now. And one thing that's really challenging, I mean, I've never had a problem saying, I don't know the answer now, but I will find it for you. And this is for normal questions. However, it's very different with COVID-19 because we don't have the answers. And the NCAA is working through this as well. And so sometimes they don't have the answers. And the information that comes out one week is different than the information that comes out the following week. So what we thought was correct last week may be a whole different story this week. And so we have to kind of keep updating, reading the information that comes out, keep asking the NCAA clarification questions on things that come out that may not be clear. But it's a constant learning. Compliance is a constant learning curve anyway, because as soon as the manual comes out, it's outdated. and you're constantly having to kind of stay up on that. It's been extreme in the case of COVID because it is changing, sometimes daily even. So I don't know. I don't think I've ever said I don't know so much, and I'm not sure when I'll have the answer. So that's been a real challenge for me because I don't know when those answers are coming.
I read those emails that come out weekly from the NCAA with updated interpretations about everything. And I got to a point where I just can't, because I know next week it's going to be different. And so that's got to be a frustrating part of your job, because you just don't know, because next week, I mean, as soon as you know, then it's something different. And so I can't imagine how that really affects how you do things and how you're able to guide all 12 member schools in interpretations and understanding what really the NCAA is trying to say, because sometimes they don't know. And that's why they send out weekly updates, is they're trying to clarify that. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be in your position right now. That's for sure.
I mean, the key really is just to keep the membership as updated as possible. As soon as I get that information, our membership gets that information. So, and even if it is different than last week, I have to read through it. I'll send it out first, and as soon as I send it out, I'm reading through it, as well, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get those questions coming back, follow-up questions, and that's fine. I don't want to delay the material getting out. I could read it the same time everybody else is reading it, and we can all work through it together. So, that's the key, developing the trust with remembrance, is that you're going to do everything you can to find those answers as soon as they're available. And they know that they're going to get that as soon as I have the information.
And Carol, you are also the SAC advisor for the entire conference. You've been working with SAC officers around the entire conference to raise awareness for various social issues, but you also work with SAC to help bring their voices to the NCAA table, so to speak. What are the biggest topics being discussed among SAC officers at each of the schools?
Right now, there a lot has to do with COVID and their eligibility, and kind of working through that. And we're working with the NCAA on that. So it's more questions regarding that. But the main legislative topic that impacts the student athletes right now is the name, image, and likeness proposals that are up for a vote in January. So we did have a session on that with the SAC advisors, compliance administrators, and some SAC representatives from each institution. And we allowed them to ask questions on that legislation, just to seek clarification, or as always, are welcome to express their concerns about a piece of legislation. And that is done through the SAC grids that are collected every fall on the NCAA legislation that's proposed in January. They are permitted and they are encouraged actually to provide notes and feedback on that, why they like a piece of legislation, why they don't. We don't always get a lot of feedback on that form, and so we keep encouraging them, because this is a way for the student athletes to have their voice heard on the national level, because our national SAC representative will then take that information back to the national SAC, and then the national SAC actually has a vote on each piece of legislation as well.
Okay. Jessica, when this pandemic came to the forefront, I think you did a great job in continuing to promote the conference in a positive way. Where you had the Hometown Heroes feature that I still see you pumping out, maybe once or twice a week. You showcase the past and present student athletes in the CCAA. By doing that, you also continue to push out content through monthly themes. Last month was excellence. This month is focusing on diversity and inclusion. What kinds of things can people expect from these themes, and what kind of other things does the CCAA have planned for future months?
Thanks for asking about this. I'm pretty excited that we're doing this theme features. throughout the rest of the calendar year. Basically, what we're doing is we decided to focus on the value statements that are included in the CCAA strategic plan. So each month moving forward, we'll really kind of highlight those value statements and how the CCAA addresses those value statements. Like you said, this is Diversity and Inclusion Month, partly because the NCAA Diversity and Inclusion Week is at the end of the month, and we're going to be doing some things to highlight what campuses are doing for the NCAA Inclusion Week, and then also our own things to just kind of get the word out about diversity and inclusion programs on each campus. Some of the other themes are leadership development and community and integrity and civility. So those are our final three. So we'll have 5 theme months to kind of tide us through until 2021.
And we also have another kind of theme this week that I want to point out. It's Officials Appreciation Week. And I know that this has been, and maybe Mitch, you can speak on this a little bit. This has been something that I believe it's the D2 Conference Commissioners Association decided that we should probably do is appreciate all of our game officials. Sports are not easy to officiate. And I myself would not want to go out there and ref a basketball game, umpire a baseball game, call balls and strikes, because you're hearing the parents, the coaches, the players in your ear the entire time saying that wasn't right. That wasn't right. Have a better day, stuff like that. But we need those officials to have games. And so I think this week, all, schools from across the country should be appreciating the officials as well they should. And even though there's no games, they should still be appreciated. And can you kind of Mitch, speak about how that kind of came about and why that's happening this week?
There is a national shortage of officials for all the reasons you just said. To have yourself go out there and really be a target for a lot of people who just don't understand how difficult the job is. And you're not at our level, they're not making a ton of money. When you're officiating a Division I basketball game at the highest level, you're doing Duke versus Kentucky, those guys are making pretty good buck. But at our level, it is, these are all guys who have other jobs and women who have other jobs. This is something that they're passionate about. They want to give back. They're former athletes. They love the sport that they happen to officiate. But it's a difficult job. And as you say, there's a lot of, if you went to your job and just got yelled at for a couple hours the entire time, would you want to do that? And so really we're trying to change the attitudes that folks have about officials, because it is really a shortage where what's happening is the average age of officials is going up because we're not getting new, younger officials into the pipeline. And so you're seeing the shortages all the way down at the club sports level, the high school level, and things like that. And it's, Division I is finally starting to understand the seriousness of this, because just like in other sports, folks want to move up. And so officials who start at high school, they want to work Division III, then they want to work Division II, and maybe they want to work Division I. And so that shortage hits everybody at some point. So a couple of the commissioners a year or two ago came up with this idea of let's start trying to really put a positive message out there about our officials and see what we can do to start really being a conscious effort to try and create some sort of message about officials, how they're appreciated, and how you say you can't have the games without them. You can yell and scream all you want, but if you don't have them out there and it's call your own, we're going to be in a world of hurt. So we need to have the officials. We need to start setting up some sort of recruitment. And the NCAA is finally also understanding this, I think, and they're going to start, once this all goes away, putting some money towards that whole process of trying to create pipelines of officials. There's a program that deals with veterans coming back and putting them into this pool and starting to learn, have them train on how to be officials because they're used to working under stressful conditions. There's folks out there that we've got to start getting involved, and student athletes are one of the areas that we're really trying to concentrate on, so that whenever we talk, when we have a SAC meeting, we talk to the kids there and we're saying, hey, when you're done as a soccer player or a volleyball player, if you still want to stay tied into your sport, here's a great way to do it. It looks good on your resume. It shows leadership. You make some extra money. It's all sorts of good, positive things. And that's really what we're trying to get across. And
it's a good workout.
It's a good workout.
You see them running up and down the court. I mean, that's more than I do. So, I mean, you're getting yelled at, but you're also getting good exercise. So it's an excuse to get out there and really, exercise.
Yeah, it takes a special person for sure. But it's a fraternity of folks that, really support each other. And I just think that one of the things we wanted to do this past spring at our SAC meeting was bring in actual officials to meet with our SAC leaders and to start having that conversation as to how can our student athletes communicate better with the officials during games, and how can officials communicate better with our student athletes during games, and start breaking down some of those walls a little bit. Obviously, COVID kind of ran roughshod over that idea, but we're still going to do it once this is all cleaned up.
Well, I for one, I appreciate the officials, and I know that I speak for everybody in every school in our conference, and then of course you guys and people across the nation. I do appreciate everything that they do, because that's not an easy job, and even the people who are yelling at them realize it's not an easy job. But of course they're in the moment. I get it, but we definitely appreciate the officials. So any officials out there, thank you for all that you do for the CCAA, the NCAA, and then all levels of competition, honestly. Back to you, Jessica. Just like Mitch and Carol, you have worked on a campus setting. Now you're in the conference office. A sports information director, such as you and I, wear many, many different hats. What's the difference between the two settings for you, between being on campus at a school, being an SID there, and then being a SID at a conference office?
I think the biggest thing for me is, as you see, this is a small office of 3 people. On a campus setting, you get student athlete engagement and involvement, typically a larger staff with coaches and administrators and the people. I think that's one of the biggest differences, is just the volume of people, the amount of interaction with people, the travel to away games. I mean, I'm at every tournament, of course, but that's 1 week at a time. So it's definitely the people.
Now you do mention it, and it's obvious here. I mean, there's 3 people, this is everybody in the CCAA office, and people may not realize that. Whereas the Pac-12 has 38 full-time staff members, and that's after they laid off, a couple people over the last couple months. Yet somehow you're able to support all 12 member institutions. It used to be 13, but San Diego left the conference. And you attempt to create the best student athlete experience for hundreds, if not thousands, of student athletes around the state. You work tirelessly to create fun and exciting conference championships, some of which may happen at the same time, among other things. How do you guys do that? And I'll start with anybody. Anybody can start with that one.
Well, in full disclosure, we used to have 4 people working in this office, but Haley Kroll was an operations assistant. She was able to get a job at UCLA, and this was last January. It seems like years ago, but it was just in January of this year. And the 3 of us kind of discussed the idea of replacing Haley, or at that time, did we think we could just make it through the spring championships, by ourselves with the help of some interns? And we decided to go in that direction. And, fortunately, that turned out to be a really good decision, because if I had hired somebody in that position, and then with COVID hitting, it would have been pretty hard to justify keeping that position. So that would have been a really tough thing to do, hire somebody and then have to let them go. So, right now we're taking the attitude of that position is there. Once we start up again, then we will fill that position. But until that time, there's really no point in doing it. So it is just the three of us right now. And I'll back up what Jess says. I was on campuses for 28 years. And the hardest transition is the people. We've been doing this remote thing since January of 2019, if I'm right. And so we got a kind of head start on the whole remote work thing ahead of everybody else. But that is the hardest part of it is when you're on a campus, you've got so many people to work with, the student athletes, you're in daily contact with them. So when we do get to go work a championship or we do get to go see a game somewhere, it's really a treat. It's a lot of work, but it's fun because it's like you're back out doing what you're supposed to do. And I think right now, I think I can speak for all three of us, where we have our job and we have what we have to do, but we really just want to be out doing athletic stuff, just like the student athletes. We want to be out there, and the coaches, we want to be out there doing the same thing. And so we're all trying hard to get there, but we've got to do it the right way.
I think one of the keys to us pulling these types of things off with such a small staff, and we do have championships that conflict with each other, so we do have to split the staff, and depending on how many we have on the staff at that time, sometimes it's one person going to a championship and the other two going to the other one. And sometimes when we have 4, it's 2 and 2, But the key is communication and planning ahead. I mean, we have to plan ahead. We have to make sure everything is in order for us to pull this off. So yeah, and the one thing I want to say that's a little bit different with what I did on a campus versus what I do here is I echo what they said about not having that interaction with student athletes or the regular interaction with the coaches and the staff. I do miss that, but the one thing I really like is that the interactions that we do get with the student athletes are all fun and positive interactions that we get with them. So gone are the days when I have to pull aside a student athlete and tell them that they're ineligible and then I have to seek reinstatement. So I don't miss that because it's not a positive thing. So I do love that all of our interactions are on the more positive and the fun side, and we get to see them when they're at their best. So for me, it's been a really good transition in that regard.
Tyler, you said, how do we do it? As you know, we wear many, many hats. In my role, how I do it is I don't sleep. A lot of coffee is how I do it. Championships are so stressful, but so rewarding when they're done.
If you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to mention it. I'm a little biased because I see what you do, and I know I will speak for the 11 other SIDs, head SIDs, and then all of their support staff on other campuses. We appreciate what you do because what people don't understand how much that you do to get ready for championships and everything that goes into it, and all of the, getting ready for the all conference teams and putting those together, working with the coaches and other staff and everything that goes into it, more than I can even say here, because it would take an hour to get through everything that you probably do to get, all of that done within a week. Because a lot of the stuff you can't do until, the all conference teams come out, and then all this and this and that. It doesn't fall into place until the week of. And so I know I will speak for everybody that we appreciate what you do for the conference. And I know how much work it is, because you don't sleep, and you make that clear, and you should make that clear that you don't sleep. And I'm sure that goes for Carol and Mitch. I mean, on conference championship weekends, I mean, there's issues here and there that I'm sure that keeps you up at night too. And so not just Jessica, but Mitch and Carol, everybody appreciates what you do. So thank you on behalf of everybody.
I will say that I've been trying to get Starbucks to be an official sponsor of the CCAA just for Jessica. Still working on that one, though.
Yeah, so if anybody goes to a future championship, just buy some coffee and take it to the CCA staff, because I know that they would very much appreciate it.
I take it any way I can get it. So always open for coffee. Daytime, nighttime, bring it my way.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm good with that, except Mitch doesn't drink coffee. I think he's more of a soda person, so.
Red Bull. No, okay. All right. Mitch, one of the biggest moves the CCA has made over the last year or so is the implementation of the CCAA Network, powered by Blue Frame technology. Most of the schools made the jump last year. The final 2 or 3 are going to make the jump this year. So all 12 schools will be on the CCAA Network. There will be some changes, though. The biggest one will be a cost to the viewer. There's a lot of schools, including Cal Poly Pomona, and I know there's other schools out there that I had worked at in the past that wanted to keep the live stream free for their fans. But now it's that across the entire board, there's going to be a little bit of a cost associated to the viewer. Can you go into a little bit of detail how much it'll cost for parents and fans to watch the CCAA Network, and why the CCAA and the member schools decided to come to that?
Sure. Obviously, it'll be more exciting when there's actual events to be broadcast. But the basic idea was, and I'll try and keep it in Reader's Digest form, was if I was a fan of Cal Poly Pomona and I wanted to watch a game at from Cal Poly Pomona, and it was free of charge, that'd be great. But maybe I wanted to watch a game from another school, and I'd go to there and it was a pay-per-view type of situation. And it may be $7.95, let's say, for that. Well, it's kind of like, well, why in the same conference are some of them free and some of them pay-per-view? So there was a real consistency problem there that was one of the issues. But the second issue is with this new program, which is going to be run like a subscription, and Jess will jump in if I make any errors here, be like a subscription, just like a Netflix type of monthly subscription. Not only can I go and watch the Cal Poly Pomona basketball game, but maybe I want to run over and see what Sonoma State's doing. And maybe I'll jump up to Humboldt or down to San Marcos. I can watch anything I want as many times as I want throughout that whole month for the one fee. So if you do just the financials of it, it's a whole lot less expensive than trying to sit there and pay $7.95. Plus you only have to do that. I mean, I know I'm not alone where when there's always that hesitancy to give a credit card number. And if you're having to do that at this school and at that school and at another school that are doing pay-per-view, a lot easier to do it one time. You've got your full access. You can watch it whenever it's convenient for you. And you can do it past events, archived events, things like that. And it's all just one monthly charge. And I think that folks will really like it once we start playing, and they really appreciate how many different contests they can watch. Because not everybody sits and watches 2 hours of one game. They like to flip around and see how things are going on in the league. Well, Jess, is there anything else I'm forgetting on that?
I mean, especially when there's a game going on that maybe Cal Poly Pomona basketball just ended, and they're playing for the conference title against Chico State, but Chico State is playing up at Chico against Stanislaus State, and they're in overtime. And if Chico State loses that game, Cal Poly Pomona, wins the conference championship, that's an easy switch to go watch the end of that game after Cal Poly Pomona ends, just to see, hey, is Cal Poly Pomona going to win the championship? Are they not? And so I think that's a great idea.
I think another great thing that it'll offer our fans is the ability, you might just be a basketball fan, but it'll give you that opportunity to maybe get involved in the baseball program or into a soccer team that you like, whether it's one school or multiple schools. I think the ability to really, really have a broad fan base in the CCA will be a really great asset.
And it's easy to find those different games because there's a specific app that you can download it on the App Store, whether Apple or Google or Android. You can watch it on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire. Am I missing one? I feel like I'm missing one, but I mean, it's widely available. Or you go to CCAA Network.com. I mean, to find the games there too. It'll be pretty simple to find once we find games. And even right now, you go on there, there's past games from the previous years that are on there that I believe are still free of charge. We haven't started the Netflix subscription style cost yet. So it should be available for everybody.
Right now, if you go to CCAAnetwork.com, like Tyler said, you can get most of the archives. If it was a paid game to begin with, I think some of those are still under a paywall, but you can watch the CCAA championships from last year and all of the Pomona games that were on the network. So yeah, go to CCAAnetwork.com and relive the last year's games.
Relive glory.
Yeah.
Because it's glory days, no matter what sport, no matter what game, preseason, that's glory compared to what we're doing now. So yes, CCAAnetwork.com. Before I get into the kind of the lighthearted to wrap this all up, I just want to get all three of yours opinion. There's so many differences between Division I, Division II, and Division III. At each of the three divisions, the NCAA scholarship models are different. Budgets are very different. Focus on student athlete experience and academics are different. In your opinion, and let's keep this within as short as you can, what sets Division II apart from the other two divisions, and why would any prospective student athlete consider D2, especially a school in the CCAA, preferably Cal Poly Pomona, but any school in the CCAA, over Division I or Division III?
I can speak to that. I think it's really the Division II philosophy that plays in, and it's about life in the balance and student athletes learning through their experiences in athletics, in academics, athletics, community service, and then also post-graduation success. So those are really the pillars and the philosophy of Division II. So it really looks to strengthen the student athlete as a whole. So it's a focus on the whole versus just one aspect, say maybe, athletics and winning at all costs. It's more of a rounded philosophy, I think. And I think that's the main thing that really sets us apart from, at least from Division I. And I think the philosophy with Division III is similar in their non-scholarship model as well.
Anyone else want to hop in on that?
I think Carol said it pretty well. I think that, I would never want to criticize a kid who wanted to go Division I because they may have that experience in their mind. But there is a large amount of student athletes that do that and then come back to Division II because they did not enjoy the experience of Division I. And there is a difference. And I think Carol wrapped it up pretty well, is that, it's athletics is part of the student experience in Division II. It's not over-consuming part of it. And the students have these other interests and other lives and other vocations and other things that they do. It's just part of the whole package of going to a Division II school, primarily, especially Cal Poly Pomona.
Yeah.
Right? I'm giving you the one plug.
That's right. Yeah.
But all of our schools.
Yes, absolutely. All right. I want to wrap this up, and I'm going to wrap it up the same way I do normally with the BroncCast. I want to have some rapid fire questions to kind of bring out your personality a little bit and see kind of where you stand on certain things that aren't necessarily related to sports. There's maybe two that relate to sports, but there's a reason for that. So what I'll do is I'll ask the question, and then I'll have Jessica answer first, and then I'll go with Carol, and then follow up with Mitch. All right. First question: what is your number one favorite professional sports team?
Oh no, Denver Broncos.
Oakland Raiders, Raider Nation.
Well, they're in Las Vegas, right?
Hey, they will always be Oakland to me. So I'm going to
Okay.
say Oakland Raiders, even though they're Vegas, but Raiders are the Raiders. I'm still in Raider Nation, even if they're in Vegas. So
Okay.
My turn?
Your turn, Mitch.
Green Bay Packers.
Okay. Well, we'll see you in the NFC Championship game, I'm sure. Go Hawks.
Yeah.
Jessica, I thought for sure you're going to say the Oklahoma
Thunder?
City Thunder, and I was going to just turn this recording off and call it a day, so I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, the Zombie Sonics. That's
Mm,
go team.
yeah. Anyway. All right. What is something you could eat for a week straight?
Mashed potatoes are my favorite food. A week straight, I'm not sure. Pizza.
Okay.
that's a tough one. I don't know I could eat anything for a week straight. I do like lobster a lot, though.
Lobster. That'd get quite expensive, I would guess.
It would. I have expensive taste, I guess. But
The question was, what could I eat for a week straight?
For a week straight.
And it's gotta
Fast
be.
food. Fast food. His
It's
answer
gotta
is
be
fast food.
Does chocolate ice cream cones count?
Sure. We can do that.
Okay, let's do that because I do it anyway. So what the heck?
So if anybody is listening and goes to conference championships, you bring coffee to Carol and Jessica, and you bring chocolate ice cream to Mitch. There you go. That's how it's done. What was your first ever job?
I worked at a KFC in the mall.
Nice.
I worked at McDonald's.
First ever paid job?
Yeah.
7 years old, I was doing TV commercials.
I'm going to Google those later. Go find
You'll
YouTube.
never find them.
What commercials were they for?
I did commercials from ages 7 to 11. I did Joy dishwashing liquid. I did A&W root beer. I did Green toothpaste. I did American Motors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a celebrity amongst us.
Yeah.
Very nice.
You can see how I parlayed that acting career into big money, right?
Yeah. If you could choose any animal to be your permanent sidekick, what animal would it be?
A unicorn.
Okay.
I'll go with a black lab.
Rip the squirrel.
The new mascot of the CCAA, the squirrel. I love it. You just won the lottery. What is your first purchase?
I don't know. I really don't. Carol.
A house.
A CCAA Network subscription.
It won't take that. It's not that expensive, Tyler. It's like $14 a month. Jess, you got nothing? You won the lottery?
I mean, maybe a house. Do I still live in California? Multiple houses. How big is the lottery? I need
Well,
more
in
details.
Oklahoma, that I don't know. Let's say $1 million. Oklahoma, you could buy 4 houses in Oklahoma, right? But
Oh,
probably
easy.
half a house in California.
Right. Yeah.
So it
So
depends on
trip
where you
around the
live.
world.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the trip around the world
Okay.
if I'm still living out here.
Okay.
I'm not a real materialistic guy based on the fact that I'm driving a car that's 14 years old and 200,000 miles on it. Maybe I need a new car. I don't know.
Okay.
Something.
We'll go with that. New car.
Okay.
What season premiere is on tonight at 8 p.m. on ABC?
Is that the good place? Is
No.
that this week?
No, not the. I mean, maybe.
Oh, it's gone. This Is Us. Is it This Is Us?
No, that's NBC. I'm
Dang,
talking about
I'm real
ABC at
bad
8
at
p.m.
I don't know.
Anybody can answer this. This is more of anybody, a toss up here. And I'm really disappointed that nobody knows this.
I might know, but I'm afraid to say that I know.
What show
Like
premieres tonight?
Bachelorette or something like
Tonight.
that.
At 8 p.m. on ABC.
Oh, that's definitely what it is, Carol. And Tyler's asking. You want a rose, don't you?
Yeah. I
No.
don't need a rose. I've got a wife. I'll give her plenty of roses. Yes. But yes, along those same lines, yes. The Bachelor or Bachelorette. Which one is it? Bachelorette.
It's the Bachelorette, I think.
I think that's
Oh, Carol, don't play it down. You obviously know this answer. It's the Bachelorette.
Bachelorette, Claire.
Like I said, I was
She
still
goes on her
afraid
quest for
to
love.
admit that I knew the answer to this.
But Claire won't be there long. It'll be Tasha that comes right in. That's what I'm hearing. But I'm gonna not say anymore because it'll just.
You're just embarrassing yourself at this point,
embarrassing
Tyler.
myself. Finally, what are you doing on November 3rd?
Mitch is a poll worker. I'm definitely voting prior to November 3rd by mail. Please register to vote. If you're in California, you have a little bit less than a week to get out there and register. And everybody make your voice heard this year.
I am voting before November 3rd as well, but I am actually going to drop it off at my county's polling office instead of dropping it in the mail.
I filled out my ballot this weekend and I made an error because I used a Sharpie, and so the Sharpie bled through the other side, so I've had to order a new ballot. But I will be working the polls at the Chico Masonic Center on November the 3rd, and my son will be working, he gets to work at a burrito place, which is kind of interesting that they're having a polling place there, but he's going to be working as well. So it's a family affair to help out.
Very good. I love hearing that. I have jury duty next week, I think. So I'll just drop my ballot off there at that courthouse when I have to go jury duty, which I'm really not excited for.
I hope you get a really fun trial. I'm excited for you. I'll be excited for you.
I'll keep you all updated. Maybe that'll be its own episode of the BroncCast, how that experience.
Tyler, I'll tell you, I always wanted to serve on a jury, and I never did. They'd either pop you out or whatever, and then I finally did. And coincidentally, it was we finished the trial. It was a 5-day trial. It was the day that they offered me the interim position for this job. It was the same day that the trial ended. So who knows what's in your future?
Maybe I'll become the commissioner of the Pac-12 or something when I get out of jury duty. Okay. All right. Well, that is the CCAA Commissioner Mitch Cox, Associate Commissioner Carol Rivera, and Director of Communications Jessica Lantz. Thanks for joining me today on the broadcast.
Thanks,
Tyler.
Thank you.
That'll do it for episode 7 of the BroncCast. I want to thank Commissioner Mitch Cox, Associate Commissioner Carol Rivera, and Director of Communications Jessica Lantz from the CCAA office for joining me today. For new episodes of the BroncCast each week, make sure to visit our website at broncoathletics.com/podcasts and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at our handle CPP Broncos. Weekly podcasts are also available for free download on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. For everyone in the CPP Department of Intercollegiate Athletics, I'm Tyler Lobe, encouraging you to make it a great day, reminding you that Black Lives Matter, and be sure to rock the vote on November 3rd. As always, go green, go gold, go Broncos.